corporate social responsibility, there really is a way you can establish a framework, a methodology to actually look and assess whether or not it's appropriate. If you're going to pander or profit, here you have box A, B, C, and D. If you look on box A, D, C, B, obviously, as soon as you see the word negative impact on business, you'll see that in box D and B. All of a sudden, a flag had better go up in your head. If it's going to hurt your business, why would you do it? So pay attention to boxes D and B because you don't want to go there. Now, look at the top boxes. Box A, positive impact on business, negative impact on society, problems with regulations, laws, labeling, environmental scorecard. Box C, positive impact on business, positive impact on society, business opportunities. Obviously, everybody wants to go to box C. Let's take a look. What exactly does that mean? Box A, let me flip back over here, positive impact on business, negative impact on society, that shows that there's a conflict between what's good for business and what's bad for society. You have a problem here. If society has a problem with it, okay, then you have an issue. But that's if they know about it. If they don't know about it, you might not have an issue. But you know what? The way the world is nowadays, everything is so wired, it's hard not to know about it. If something goes sideways, somebody's going to stand there and says, oh, you have this problem over here. Whether it's wholly true or partially true, sometimes doesn't matter. Sometimes the stories, etc., lead to different things. But regardless, you don't want to have a negative impact on society because eventually that tends to get out. Box A isn't necessarily good, but it's going to depend as to how bad it is. Is it fixable? Can you sit down there and make it neutral at least? Pay attention to what box A means. You might be able to flip box A into box C if you play your cards right. That's a possibility. So pay attention to box A. It's got more potential than all the other boxes of becoming good if you can just sit down there and change a few methods possibly in your supply chain. Box A is where public policy has an important role. Sometimes you sit and you wonder, do we have too much government regulation? Most businesses will say yes. If you look on government regulation here in California, you're going to find that an awful lot of regulations here keep on coming out. And if you look on a survey of states to do business in, it's pretty common that California shows up in the bottom 10% across almost every single survey as to how bad the business climate is, primarily because we're overly regulated in the opinion of an awful lot of people, and including me. You just have to go out and pay attention to what's out there as to what's happening on it. There's also sometimes consumer product labeling imposed by governments, trading partners can make an impact. Maybe some of that's good. If this is really bad for you, this is a bad product. Do not eat this. Do not drink it. However, you find it to drink and eat, it's not a good thing. Sometimes we go overboard. I walked into a bank one time, and I'm walking into a Wells Fargo bank. On the doorway, the way the rules work in California, if you have a hazardous issue, the tag has to be displayed prominently at the entrance, typically on the right-hand side of the entrance. I walked into the bank and I saw a sign there, and I had to pause and stop and read it before I walked into the bank. It sat there and says, there could be things inside this bank that are environmentally unfriendly to you. I talked to the teller. I says, what does that mean? Does that mean having money is bad? She says, you know what? Nobody here knows what it means. It's just our lawyers told us to put it on the door just in case we miss something in the process. It's a bank. It's money. They might have coffee for the customers. They might even have a donut. Maybe that's what they're talking about. Or maybe touching money's bad. Or maybe money itself is evil. So therefore it's whatever. There was a door that had a sign on it that said things inside this area might cause problems with you, cancer or whatever. We don't know what in the world it is. No, wait, that they didn't put that on the sign, but that's what they're saying. That was an odd thing. So box A is bad, but it has potential. Box B and C, they refer to situations where the business decision may be beneficial to society or environment, but not to business. Well, okay, that issue is a problem. If your business is going to hurt your business, that is not something you want to go because you still need to survive as a business. Feel free to do all the good that you want, but if you don't have any money for your business, you can't do much good. Box C are situations that are no incentives or regulations are required, firms invest because these investments drive economic value. Look at this one over here, box C, positive impact on business, positive impact on society, business opportunities. Check, that's really good. See, those are the place you want to be. B and C are directly related. Government incentives could be designed to provide business benefits. Sometimes they actually do with grants, but I'm not certain that we should be operating as a free society with the government dictating what, when, and how we're supposed to be doing. But that's an opinion about socialism versus capitalism. And by the way, I'm a capitalist, and this class is about business, which is a capitalistic function. Okay, but box B and C, they are related, implies that the role of government incentives is to motivate firms to make decisions with characteristics of box B that behave as if they were in box C. One thing that we don't notice is that when you get into a car, it's pretty common for you to sit down and put your seatbelt on and your shoulder harness. If you go back historically, when the United States was dominated by three auto industries, we called them the big three back in the 60s, they fought furiously against installing seatbelts. They fought furiously against installing headrests. They fought furiously against having shoulder harnesses. All those, they felt that the consumer should decide. Well, the consumers never had an opportunity to make a decision whether or not they wanted seatbelts. They didn't have an opportunity to decide about headrest. And if you went back historically, you'll see having a neck brace was pretty common from somebody hit from behind. Your head would snap back. Well, those are government regulations. As much as I'm opposed to generally government regulations in general, we needed somebody to sit down and say, knock it off, put the safety equipment on the vehicles, and help make a safer car. It really was Lee Iacocca at Chrysler who says, okay, we're going to adopt that. And we'll even adopt shoulder harnesses. Then people started following suit, but only after the government started regulating things. And then the fight for the airbags. The airbags, there was a fight over that. It's going to cost more money. The cars will go up. And by the way, they did install them. Now we have side airbags. Now we have this, and the cars are priced a lot of times past the budget of most Americans, which is a problem all in itself. But regardless, our vehicles are far safer from government regulation. Sometimes there is a role for government, especially when you have a monopoly or an oligopoly, like the oligopoly we had, where just a few people control all the car industry. They needed to step in and sit down there and make things equal, to sit down and say, okay, take care of the people that are buying the product. So I'm going to talk out of my mouth over here about capitalism, and I just talked out of this side of my mouth about socialism. Okay, oligopoly, sure, a little bit of government intervention. Box A is all about operational improvements that can magically move over to box C. Yes, opportunities with B and C are business innovations. So pay attention to what innovations you can do with box B and C. Look, first of all, for box B. Government incentives play a role. They actually do. Okay, analyze everything systematically from step one. Establish performance measures for success. Start small, monitor, establish best practices, build scale by transferring knowledge learned from one place to other regions, products, or services. And then you start getting benefits and some feedback in the aspect of what is sustainable, what approaches can you take to sit down and have some type of social policy. But the social policy can, if you do it right, if you follow those 4 steps, lead to additional profits. Approach business innovation and a corporate social responsibility. And by the way, tell everybody what you're doing. That helps an awful lot. It's called advertising. And if people see you taking steps forward to correct something to make it even better and more value to their product, sometimes even psychologically, the chance of them that appealing to them is higher. You need to pay attention to what that is. And then have the social responsibility. It really is nothing more than the same as other investments, and pay attention to it. Frameworks for corporate social responsibility, look at those 4 aspects of it. Identify an opportunity incentive, whatever that may be. Analyze it rigorously, systematically, the opportunities possible. Establish performance measures for success. Implement. That is always the best way to have a framework for corporate social responsibility. Get some profit out of that pandering. It seems to work pretty well for most companies that have adopted it. Take care.